Okay, welcome back to part 3 for canning broth. Let me explain that I am in the house in the kitchen because the weather has turned cold and nasty and very windy. So it's in the 40s with a cold north wind. So I'm working in the kitchen. And what I have done up to this point that you will not see because it's already been done is I took a stick blender to the pot of broth so that I could mush up all the vegetables and the bits of meat so that virtually it's a broth. There's no chunks of anything in there. I did add a little bit of salt and a little bit of garlic powder, and I have added some water to this. Reason being is that it's very thick and it really needed to be thinned out. It's a very rich, thick broth. So, and it's a milky color. It's not clear. And in thinking about it, I think the reason for that, because we use the rotisserie chickens from the grocery store so often, and a lot of those bones were that. I honestly think that they probably are marinated like with some olive oil or some kind of an oil, and that may be what turns it kind of cloudy, milky looking. But the broth tastes great, so no complaints here. Okay, I finished adding all the rest of the water that I want to add at this point, and I am filling the jars. Now this is cold broth going into cold jars, and it's going to be put in a cold canner. And I love the funnel that I have. I've not seen another one in a while. I got this one at Walmart a few years back. The bottom of it is a silicone type rubber stuff, and it collapses. So it takes up virtually no space if you need to store it in a drawer. But I like it a lot. It not only does it collapse down and it cleans nicely, that nice wide area lets you use, like, this is a 1 cup measuring cup to pour into it. So it makes it handy without it getting everywhere. I'm a little drippy on this part of it because I know I can wipe it up and clean it and it's no big deal. At this point I am filling 8 jars. These are quarts. Only 7 would fit in the canner, and that's okay. But like I said, we're going into a cold broth, into a cold jar, into a cold canner with cold water in the bottom, and a little bit of vinegar. Keeps your jars from getting cloudy because we do have hard water. And if everything that you put in is cold and it all starts out cold, you can do it this way. Not a problem to do that. Alternately, if you want to have hot broth and hot jars and into a hot canner, it moves a little quicker because you don't have that lag time waiting for everything to come up to temperature and come up to pressure. It goes a lot faster. But I'm dealing with a father who doesn't like the smell of the processing and such. So in order to keep the smells down, I'm doing it the cold way. And there's nothing wrong with that. It should work out just fine. I've never had an issue with it. I've done it before. You can cold pack a lot of things, including meats, and that's perfectly fine. You don't want to put cold jars of cold stuff into a hot canner. You could break your jars, and that's no fun. Dealing with a broken jar in a canner when you've already got other stuff in there, it's just a mess. Because you've got broken glass and all the whatever was in the jars and it's just a pain to clean up. So I'm just about done here, just one more jar to go. And you can see that I've got quite a bit of broth left, so I'll be doing a second batch. Now quarts, when it's a meat product, they do have to process once you have everything up to temperature, up to pressure. It does have to process in a pressure canner for 90 minutes. Then you have to, yeah, I had a little bit too much in that one. Then you have to let it cool, everything cool off naturally. So you're waiting again, usually 30 minutes to an hour, depending the situation. And you have to wait for that pressure gauge to, the little crap, what do they call it? I forget. It's a little thing that pops up to hold that pressure. You have to wait for that to go down all by itself, and then you can open it and remove your jars. What I'm doing here is cleaning the rims of the jars off with a paper towel that's been soaked in vinegar. That will cut through the oils, the greasy part, and get it nice and clean so that you get a good seal. I actually did have one jar that did not seal when I was all done. So I've put that in the refrigerator. We'll just use that up, within the next few days. For whatever reason, it just didn't seal. Could be I just didn't get all of the rim wiped real well. I was checking to see if I had a rough spot there. I did not. But I keep turning the paper towel around so that I always have a clean side to use. You don't want to have anything left on that rim. It can ruin the seal very quickly. I've been canning for over 20 years, quite regularly, but I learned to can when I was a child, helping my mom and my grandmother snap beans and, fix whatever we were, fixing up tomatoes and what have you to can those. So here I am going after the lids. Now I take my lids and I do put them in hot water. I have a small pan over on the other side there where I have some water, and it's on a low temperature for the stove top, but it gets it good and hot. The reason that you want to put your lids in there is to warm up the rubber seal. You're not sterilizing it when you're pressure canning. That's not necessary. What you want to get is that rubber seal soft so that it will adhere itself to the top of the jar. That's all you're doing. I know a lot of people, even when they're pressure canning, they will put the lids and the rings in boiling water thinking they have to sterilize it. But it's not necessary if you're pressure canning. The high temperature that comes from the pressure canning, that kills off everything. I mean, you could put dirty scum water in there and it'd probably be safe to drink afterwards. I wouldn't want to, but it kills off everything. So now I'm just filling the canner up, putting the rings on, and you put these on tight, fingertip tight they call it. You don't want them loose at all. Now I did have one package of, I still do, I have one package of those plastic reusable lids, those you don't tighten until after it comes out, I don't like them. I know they're reusable, I just don't like them. Okay, let me stop here. Okay, what I'm doing here is covering everything up and putting things off to the side so I can get ready to do the next batch after this one's done. I am dealing with a father who doesn't like the smell of this stuff when it's processing. So to minimize that, that's why I'm doing everything cold. There's less smell that way. I am keeping things covered so that those smells are not going out into the air. And I'm also took a small pan and I have some simmering water with some vanilla and some orange peels in it. So I think we pretty much got it covered. Nobody was complaining about anything today. And here we are at the end of the day. I have 13 quarts. I have one there on the far left that did not seal. It's going in the refrigerator to wait until we can use it in the next couple of days. I'm not going to reprocess for 1 quart. But I have 13 total. Hopefully everything will seal. That's the last batch that I took out. And you can see it's still pretty opaque. It's not a clear broth. It's very opaque. And again, I think that's because of the rotisserie chickens.